involved in any of the films shown, please come down. Thank you. We have Woman Dies Alone, Cottage Grove, Cold as Ice, Superman Doesn't Steal, Choices, Breathe, Sweet Santa Barbara Brown. And if we're out of chairs, you guys can just stand on by the side.
Oh, you were at the hotel.
I was, yeah.
You guys, I have chills, like between the production quality that you guys had in your films, the storylines, the hope. I am so encouraged.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we'll start with having you guys introduce your name, your role in the film, and the film you are representing.
Okay, my name is Jamie Burton Orr. I am the writer, director, producer of Breathe.
Hi, my name is Tamika Lamison, and I'm the writer, director, producer, and I had a role in Superman Doesn't Steal.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Elsie Jr., and I'm the writer and director of Cottage Grove.
Ooh.
Hey everybody, my name is Oliver Mac Calhoun. All my friends call me Mac. I wrote and directed Cold as Ice.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And I helped produce this amazing director and writer's film as well.
Amen.
My name's hello. My name is Eric Dyson. I directed Sweet Santa Barbara Brown. Yes, hello. Sweet Santa Barbara Brown. Director Eric Dyson.
I'm Solomon Hughes. I wrote and acted in Sweet Santa Barbara Brown.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with a few questions for a few of the filmmakers, and then I'll open up to the crowd. Okay, so I would like to start with Cottage Grove. Cottage Grove.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
You did something so special in your script where instead of doing flashbacks of his journey, when the extras walked by, oh, not extras, but the supporting actors walked by, they gave glimpse into the moments that were important to him. So the first one that stood out was the mom, who did an excellent acting job, cussing out the daddy and telling him, like, the real, like, I know you want to be here, but you doing the most when you just got here yesterday. Yeah. And that was a reflection of how he felt his dad. So for you, when you were writing this, what made you, instead of doing flashbacks, include those moments as the people walked by?
Yeah, so, honestly, I don't like flashbacks. I think they're a great tool for certain films, but I just knew that if I did that, it would follow the same trope of many other father and son stories. So it was more interesting for me to really show. Yeah, I'm just gonna project. It was really interesting for me to showcase like the beauty and reality.
They still.
Okay, sorry. It was important for me to show the beauty and reality of the South Side of Chicago, and so I wanted to have characters around them that really showcase the subtext of their relationship. So the young parents, the mom and dad and the little boy when they're walking, and then the other family, the queer family that was in the parking lot, to talk about the subtext of Emmanuel's maybe suggestion of his sexuality as well. So using the world around them to talk about the story as opposed to using flashbacks for that for the story.
I loved it. And what I will say about your film is I appreciated the leaving us with the hope of healing in the family. When they did the flash forward, it was beautiful that you gave room that there's a possibility that there could be healing and there could be a relationship.
Yeah, I think when we all have family wounds, black, white, whatever color, sexuality, orientation, and I'm just interested in the reality of what that looks like for healing. And for Emmanuel and Senior, I didn't see them, I didn't think it was going to be this big emotional, like, oh, I'm so sorry, son, blah, 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 blah. But him putting his hand on his shoulder was enough for him to say, I apologize. And the idea of showing them in the field is like what life could have been. Because oftentimes I think of like, what if my dad would have said, who would I be as a man today? So yeah, there's possibilities, but I think just tackling healing in a real way as opposed to something that's fantastical.
I loved it. Thank
you.
you. Yes. All righty. Tamika, Superman Doesn't Steal. You had some, I love this film. But you had some important moments that had no words. One that stood out to me was the camera zooming in after the whooping on the parents in the room crying, but supporting each other. What I got from that scene was Black love, Black protection, two-parent household. And I also got that the tears were, I want to just protect my baby boy from the outside world. What was your hopes when you wrote that scene and when you filmed it and that the audience leaves with?
Thank you so much for asking that question. So I wrote that scene specifically because I feel like, a couple of things. Our parents often say, well, back in the day when they'd say, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you. And, we're like, right? Does it though? And I really wanted to show that actually is a real thing with parents. And specifically with Black men, we never really get to see their vulnerability, if I could say the word, their vulnerability. And it's interesting because the actor, Mustafa, that's the only scene that he wanted to talk to me. He goes, so I just was curious, why do you have the dad crying? Why do you want me crying in the scene? So I actually had to talk him through that. And I said, well, this is about so much more. It's about the fact that you could have lost him. It's about all the interactions that you've had with the police that you know could have happened to your son. It's about wanting to protect him. It's about not wanting to hurt him, but choosing to hurt him so that you can, in your mind, save him. It's about all these things, and you get to privately show that to the woman that you love. You may not show that side to your kids, you may not show it to the outside world, but you can be vulnerable with her. So that's really what the thinking behind it was.
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Mac, watching Cold as Ice, I felt like I was watching a TV show, to be honest. I felt like that was episode 1, and I'm ready for episode 2 so we can see what his journey on the team is going to be like. When you were writing the short, what was your ultimate hopes that the short will be doing?
Well, this short was actually born from the pilot episode for a television series I developed.
Okay.
And I would have meetings with, like studios and stuff and like production companies, and they would always be like, what's it going to look like, because everyone's just kind of used to Mighty Ducks. We haven't really seen like a real portrayal of ice hockey unless you watch like Miracle, which is a great film. Everyone should check it out. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to shoot it. I'm going to show them what real hockey looks like. So yeah, I took 20 pages from the pilot episode, and that's what we shot.
You did that. I'm ready for episode 2, okay? So somebody please buy his series so we can see it on TV. You did such a great job with casting. I mean, from the antagonist, him sticking his tongue out every 5 seconds, really doing the jock thing. That was awesome. To your main character being like, the quiet underdog, to your coach. How did you know when you were writing to write so like specific and to nail in those characters like that?
I think when you write to reflect life. So anytime I'm like developing anything or writing characters, I really put myself in their shoes. Even with the antagonist, I had to go to a place and try to understand him. Like, what's his background? Why is he this way? No one is just born, like that. So I would put myself in his shoes and see why he's like that. And when you're writing scenes where these characters have to interact, you really have to think to yourself, how would character A react to how character B is acting? And so that went into my mind whenever I was writing these scenes with all these characters.
They were all distinct, and I loved enjoying watching all those characters do their thing. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet Santa Barbara Brown. We're going to jump over to your guys' excellent short. You guys' production design was off the chain. It's a time period piece. Please talk to us about, there's a shot so that the kid looks and he sees them in the jerseys. What was it to get the police car, to get in those jerseys, to get in your guys' design on set pristine like you guys had it?
That's a lot went into the production design of this project, as you could see. And, there was a lot of little minute details that, Mac was a producer, I was a producer, Solomon was a producer, we got producers back there, we got producers everywhere. And when we read through the script, we really, like every period thing you add to a film, it's like a dollar sign, right? Like you can't just go into your closet. So all these little things added up, and we were on a limited budget. But we knew that an important part of the storyline was, how do you tell this story? The audience is already aware of what the potential outcome could be when a black man reaches for something as innocent as a piece of paper. So the audience already knows that. So the way, in my mind, as the director, to kind of portray and get that idea across was to try to go through the eyes of the little boy who is completely innocent, right? He doesn't care that they're black, he just cares that they're his basketball heroes. So Solomon wrote in, from the kids' perspective, we see them in their game, jerseys and uniforms. So I thought that was a fantastic idea, because then that also really brought the audience into the kids' perspective. And even with all the melee and all the craziness that's going on, like remembering that, if we sort of can step back and look at the world through more innocent eyes, as is the case with all these films, that, really that might not be such a bad road to go down. I mean, this might be a tangent from your question, but it definitely, when you speak about production value and putting the time and the money into what's on the screen, it can really enhance the story. And certainly for what Solomon wrote, we wanted to make sure that everything specifically spoke to supporting what was on paper.
You guys did that excellently. Yes. Solomon, your writing was bomb. You wrote in some lines that definitely pushed the envelope, like how you had the guy with the headset come over and say, "The revolution won't be televised." And we all looked up like, no, he didn't. You know what I mean? You have these moments where it's like, we all see it in public, maybe microaggressions, and people are unaware of what they're saying and how they're coming across. Why was it important for you to have those moments of subtle comedy in this heavy script?
So that line, Eric gets credit for that line. That was an on-the-day improv, which we absolutely loved. But to your question, the whole idea of these interactions is that they're kind of like they're celebrities, right? And when they go to different towns, they bring joy and laughter and delight. And what we were trying to capture is them trying to be in their private world, in a very private place, and how they have to code switch in the moment when the public wants access to them, essentially. And so our thinking with that was first of all, they're very tall, so they're not just going to walk down and not be bothered. But because in addition to being tall, they're also these celebrities that carry the weight of this organization that has had an incredible amount of importance when you think about America's political history. And so the whole idea of these interactions and interruptions is just they're kind of they're constantly observed wherever they go. So.
And I will say I love the piece where you guys included the team owner at the beginning and the end, because it lends to the conversation in real time when LeBron talks about political issues and he gets the rhetoric of just stay in your lane, you're just a basketball player. And so I feel like you guys adding that was just the cherry on top.
And I'll just real quickly add the issue of microaggressions, which actually come up twice in the movie, when the dad says, give him a high five. That's what they do instead of shaking hands.
Yes.
Right? It's there's a certain innocence behind him and the other guy. And, I don't know how many else of us have experienced this, but when those little things happen and you tune into it, it's not necessarily always done from a malicious standpoint.
Right.
It's done out of
Ignorance.
Ignorance,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm always a big fan of like bringing that to light and like having a conversation about it because it's a teaching experience for sure.
You did that, so thank you.
And I just want to add one thing to this. Like, we all worked on this together, and I just wanted to speak to hiring the right people. Like, we were like pretty much at the point where we needed to shoot. We found Marcel, the production designer who designed that set, at the last second, and he came in and just rocked it.
Wow.
Like, so hiring the right people around you really can enhance your production.
Thank you. Alrighty, last but not least, our beloved Eric Gardner story. Now, it's coming up on his 10-year anniversary. Why was it important for you to film it and to continue his legacy now?
So in 2 days, we'll mark the day that he was killed by NYPD. 10 years ago. It was important because it's still important, it's still happening, and now every single one of us have become numb to the point where you just scroll on by on your phone. It was important because he was a human being first. His daughter was a human being who suffered loss and death because of the stress that she took on to fight for the family. And some people don't know she's gone. It was important because his other daughter, Emerald Garner, is now raising her sister's children, and she's carrying the stress, and I have a relationship with her now. It is important because Ramsey Orta is in jail as we speak, when there was the intention that he would be on this festival circuit with me. It is important for so many reasons, and I'm sick of the same response. I'm tired, and I'm an action-oriented person, so what I felt I could do is say something different in my art.
And thank you for sharing it. And yes, thank you for continuing the legacy, because you're right. Many of us don't know what happens to the families when someone special is taken from them. So like being able to see that his daughter, after trying to fight the good fight, was overwhelming for her and caused her to pass away. Like, that's heartbreaking, because the family is now suffering more loss around the same issue that caused it all. But I do love that your film came from the perspective of the videographer. Share about why you wanted to take that route and what inspired that.
Thank you for noticing that. Ramsey is still alive, and he just filmed his friend, because that's all that he could do in that moment. That's all that what society allows. I wanted to create a world where, what if we just had the right things happening that we as humans think are right, regardless of someone's occupation or race. So this guy, what should have happened, in my opinion, is he should have been celebrated as a hero. And even possibly could have, I'll tell you this, he suffers from guilt because he felt he didn't do enough. Because the person he is, he's a fighter, and he would have wanted to jump in there. And what is really wrong with that? That's what I really want people to sit with. What's wrong? What's wrong with Eric defending himself?
Right.
Because we never go that far, even in our imagination, to know what that would be. It's like, oh, wait, no, that's the police. We stop right there. No, those are human beings that have the job of police officers, and actually they are supposed to be peace officers. That's the word we don't even acknowledge, peace. So my two characters that came in to arrest the cop, in the credits, they're peace officers. That's their title, Yes. So, and I feel like his voice is still one that needs to be heard. Is Ramsey perfect? No.
None of us are.
He grew up with difficult conditions. He had bad choices that he made that he regrets, but he doesn't deserve to be harassed by the police. He wanted to come to set. He was scared. So we met in a car in Brooklyn, and he was looking over his shoulder the whole time. We had a relationship at that point, but that was his first time meeting me in person. So, you know, by the time we left, you know, he trusted me, but it took all of that for him to relax. And then after that, he was arrested after being, you know, followed and pursued. And, you know, did he have something in his car or not? You know, so it's crazy. It's just, it's crazy.
It really is.
Yeah.
But thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to highlight that story, to show what that day for Eric Garner was like, and the miscommunication with the phone call, him actually breaking up a fight and still, you know, being harassed. So thank you for shedding light on that story.
My pleasure. I just wanted to say real quick to that point, I mixed in fiction and truth in my story. And what's interesting is that what you think is fiction, of course he didn't live, so we know that's fiction. But the plants, he actually is and was a horticulturalist. That's real. He actually did break up a fight that day, and they called the police on him. That's real. And Ramsey is his friend, and he was considered a neighborhood giant. He did do things like that in his community. So the community knew him. That's real. So.
Thank you. All righty, I would love to open up questions from the audience. Okay, we'll start with the hats right here.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So the question is, how do you discern when you should maintain actual events, the truth as we know it, versus you taking an artistic license to add your voice to the situation? Is that a good? Yeah, okay. In my case, it started with my voice, my reaction to what happened in real life. I didn't think about anybody else. I thought about my voice, and I thought about, I'm from Flint, Michigan, so even though I was born in San Francisco, I grew up in Flint, and I thought about Malice Green, who was killed by the cops in Detroit when I was a young person. I thought about Michael Brown. I thought about all of that, so including Eric Garner. So my reaction was what got my pen on the pad. When it came time to really make the film, my professor, she pulled me aside and was like, "You got to do this," and that was, 9 years later or something like that I actually made the film. But I reached out first to Ramsey. He was in jail at the time. I reached out through YouTube, connected with him. Then I reached out to Emerald Garner, and she had the script, read it, and when she came back, both of them said, "Let's rock and roll." So, and they saw the script. Emerald or Ramsey have not seen the film yet because they were supposed to be on the circuit. Emerald had a ticket to the premiere. She had to cancel last minute because she didn't have a babysitter. She's afraid to watch the film, even though she knows what it's about because of what her reaction will be. But for me, can I live with, as an artist, what I'm about to say? And do I have something to say? And what's the purpose of what I'm saying? Is this something bigger than me? And for me, anybody who knows me, this is right in an alley of me and who I am as a person. I wasn't gonna make this or any film to get into Hollywood. Like that stage of my life is over. I'm an artist and I do my joints with, if I make $1,000 and make my film, I'm rocking, period. So that's just me. If it gets into Hollywood, that's cool, but that's not my number one goal, so.
Thank you.
I thank you for that. I feel the same way. Some people ask me, like, why now? Why did you do this, tell this story? And I'm like, because I had to tell the story. Like, I didn't do it for any reason. I didn't do it because I was trying to, and initially it wasn't even, now it's expanding into a feature, but when I wrote it, it was just a story that haunted me that I wanted to tell for my family and for, I just wanted that story out there because it just wouldn't go away. So there was no other reason other than that. And to the specificity of your question, I just feel like you always tell the truth. You just always are coming from a place of authenticity. And when you create, it's the same thing. I mean, even fantastical stories have an authentic truth to them, right? With the characters and things like that. So that's just, that's where you start and where you end, is just telling the truth. So that's kind of where I come from.
So, great question. Like 20 years ago, I played with the Globetrotters for about 3 months. And there was this thing that always stuck with me about that experience was when we were at training camp in Arizona, and when we would wear our warm-ups, our red, white, and blue warm-ups, there'd be like 5 of us in an elevator. Elevator door opens up, and people would just, jump on. It's like you take those uniforms off, there's a different reaction. And so the idea of like, how people see you when you're in uniform versus not, that was kind of one of the themes that you could see within Sweet Santa Barbara Brown. And then when I came across the story years later, I was like, man, it felt like there was this opportunity to kind of to build that into this real thing that happened where they were held up by police. Nobody was shot, but they were held up by police, and then eventually, sued and came up with a little bit of a settlement. But ultimately, what Santa Barbara said to them was, it could have been worse. So.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Or we'll do 2 more. We'll go up there and then we'll go down to you.
Okay, I appreciate the questions that have been moderated. Have been, I think if Black people are not a monolith, if that were a film program, it would be this one. You all did an excellent job. You could all lead a master class in some aspect of what you do. Even the getting a whooping, like growing up, and my mom would come in and cry with us, and I'd be like, why is she crying? But my question, in terms of your production quality, your films are really excellent storytelling. Budget. How close or deep you want to get into that. But, as we're all learning and sharing and growing, how did you approach budget? And around what ranges might you have shot these pieces?
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's talk money. So this was my MFA thesis film. So there were some in-kind donations for equipment and services from crew for students, so I did not have to pay them. So that was a huge cost saving on our part. But we raised about $17,000 on Indiegogo,
Nice.
And then I was fortunate enough to get a grant through my school, so that was $2,500. And then out of my pocket and a producer, we paid probably $4,000 for post service and stuff like that. So yeah, that was the budget in total. And I mean, if you want to add in festival circus, let's talk about that later. But that was the budget for Cottage Grove, at least.
But those festival budgets, they do need to be added in because that is a part of the film process.
Yes. So we can talk about that.
Thank you for
sharing.
sharing.
But yeah, very fortunate to have some funding for it. But that should be part of post production. But yeah, so around $25,000 for Cottage Grove.
I'm an assistant director by trade, so every day at work I have to think about budgets, timelines, and scheduling. So when I went into Cold as Ice, I was like, yeah, I know this is gonna be expensive. I put on my Google Doc 20,000, but I knew we were going over that. You know, you just have to present people with a one sheet, but you know in your mind it's gonna be 20,000 until we get the post. You know what I mean? So it's like, so when I went in, the location was expensive. I had to add more days because the lead actor actually is a professional hockey player. His schedule didn't align with the antagonist because the antagonist was off shooting the movie. A lot of this movie, they were not there at the same time. So we had to figure out how to shoot it and make it make sense and make it look like they were there at the same time. So that cost more money. But at a certain point, I play poker, so I was pot committed. So it was like, all right, you know, whatever else I got to spend to get this done, that's what I'm going to do.
It looks, Mac, I'm telling you, it looked like a TV show. Like,
thank
your
you.
quality was amazing. Everybody was, but I'm just saying.
Thank you. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I said 20,000 at first, but we ended up spending 40. So.
That's still good for 30 minutes.
For Sweet Santa Barbara, we could not have done it if it weren't for BraveMaker and working with them and fundraising and the relationships that Tony has. The Pedleys are here. They were early buy-ins to this project. So, you know, for the purposes of the live stream, I don't really want to get into the details of the budget. I will say it was 20,000 or more. And I hope that what is on the screen reflects not only the money, but also the sweat that we put into it for having even people from this end of the state come down south to be production assistants and be actors and just everybody pulled together. But if it weren't for BraveMaker, we would still just be talking about it.
Thank you, y'all.
I just wanted to quickly say our projected budget was about $50,000 initially, so I'll say it was 50,000 or more. I got a settlement from a company that I worked at that wasn't cool. They weren't cool. So I actually used the money. It was triggering for me, so I used the money to make the film.
Right on
but
time.
also, we had so much Hollywood support. There were 2 strikes happening at the same time. So what you're seeing are extremely incredible, generous people who typically I would not have been able to get because I would not have been able to afford them. But because there was a dual strike going on, we were able to get incredible people to work on our film because they loved the script, and it was a win-win situation because no one was working, and this was the money that I had. And also I just have to shout out my post-production, Cosmo Street, because all of our post-production was free. The entire thing, including the editor, it was all free. They were like angels, and Keslo Camera gave us all of our camera equipment for free and all of that. So that's, you know, I do some other stuff in the world, a nonprofit and a DEI program, and I work with these companies, so they give me a lot of love. So shout out to them.
Yes.
Shout out to this young lady right here. We got the Dave Chappelle wrap it up signal flashing. Wrap it up. Real quick, I used the SAG budget, the thing, they did a workshop here where you can get actors for 20,000 or under. So, and if you want more details later, I'm at Jamie Burton Orr. I will respond to you, and we can talk in greater detail. Is that good for wrap it up? All right.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll wrap it up on live. I did promise one question, so we'll wrap it up on the live. But if you guys if you want to go out, you can. We'll stay, panelists, for that one last question that we had. Is that okay? Alrighty. Thank you, live.
Thank you. What was the last question?
Oh, you haven't asked it yet.
Oh.